Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. So we will be starting shortly. Let's just wait a few minutes to have others join. We're supposed to be expecting over 100 people for this interesting webinar. So let's just give another say 3 to 5 minutes, and then we will start. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey, so good. Uh, Good afternoon for the people where it's noon, and good morning to the people where they're still in the morning. And I know that I have people on this call that are coming from different places, different locations, different organizations. Um, a lot of people from Ghana, a lot of people from Nigeria here, and from many other locations. So thank you very much, everyone. It's great to have you here. I am Dr. Orlando, and it's my pleasure to be here. I will, I'll try to make this short. In fact, that was my I'll try to make this short. It's going to be tough to make it short, but I'll try. Because the enterprise architecture conversation it's a massive conversation. I mean, you can't even easily uh deal with that conversation. It's a lot. Every time we're talking about enterprise architecture, even if we're here for an entire week, that conversation, we won't be able to exhaust it. So, and I do have a training class in a couple of weeks from now. So I have a training that will be happening, I think, on what's that date called? I'm sure they'll share the link of the flyer in the chat room. I think I have a training that is on the 4th. And I know that I already have an organization that has sent 10 people into that trading class. So if if anybody has that, they should share it in the chat room. So once again, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. I'll try to make this as quick as I can. Talking about enterprise architecture, I've been fortunate in my life and my career. I'm certain that I've been involved with enterprise architecture for maybe a dozen years, and I mean practicing it, working with. Done some work with Microsoft. I've done some work with Cisco. When my first formal introduction to enterprise architecture was from Cisco. Cisco was trying to take what I'll say, that thing they call uh, a technology agnostic approach. They wanted us to sit with, I was a partner to Cisco then, and they wanted us to sit with organizations and just help organizations through what can be referred to as an enterprise architecture journey. That's what it is that they wanted. But of course, that journey was now going to eventually dovetail into maybe Cisco solutions or something along those lines. But it wasn't like a big deal for them that it had to be Cisco solutions. The most important thing uh, for them was that the client had to really understand enterprise architecture. And years ago, it's been a long time. I can't honestly can't. I need to go and check the dates. It must have been about a decade ago. They took us somewhere for about 4 weeks, and they were just training us on different portions of enterprise architecture. And so I've been practicing enterprise architecture prior to that, but that was my formal introduction. Over like a 4 week period, I had to go to somewhere in England for the Cisco office close to Heathrow 4 different times over like a year, and we're doing all sorts of things. So that was my first formal introduction into enterprise architecture, and I think I've practiced it. I mean, quite a bit between then and uh, and now, so to speak. So it's my pleasure to be here. This is going to be a conversation. We're going to try, because I'm not trying to teach anything. I can't even teach anything in an hour, really. We're only going to explore thoughts, and just, all of us are just going to explore thoughts. So my first thought is, from your perspective, right? What is enterprise architecture? Is enterprise architecture a set of diagrams, which I see that a lot of consulting firms, and I'm not insulting anybody, I'm just saying, right? Is enterprise architecture, is it a set of diagrams? Because people seem to like diagramming a lot, right? And diagramming is part of it. You can't go away from it, right? It's a requirement that you draw diagrams when it comes to enterprise architecture. You have to draw diagrams. However, is enterprise architecture primarily around diagramming? That means if you show like a very complex diagram, people will say, hey, they'll clap for you. They'll stand on the table, they'll say, this is enterprise architecture. I remember a client I was working for that had some big firm, and those ones are giving them like a 300 slide document, like, right? So please, everybody, please go to the chat room. There's all sorts of experts in the room here today. So I'm not the only one that knows about this thing. I can vouch for some people that are on this call. They've been doing enterprise architecture in their own organizations. Some of the people that are on the call, some people here are my friends, some people they are my colleagues, some people, I can even say some people here, they're my mentors, so to speak. So what does enterprise architecture mean to you? Everybody, please go to the chat room. I want to hear from you. What do you think it means? People think, I've seen this diagramming conversation in a dozen and one places, right? So people will say, if the diagram is complex, then that's enterprise architecture, right? Say, is this whole thing around enterprise architecture, the, is it about PowerPoint? Is enterprise architecture, is it a PowerPoint initiative? An initiative where we have PowerPoint and we've used it for different representations. I like to call them static representations, representations per time, right? Of which most dynamic organizations will change. They will go in a separate direction. They will change. Things change, right? Inside of ISO standards, we talk about the planning of changes. Change is constant, right? So please, can anybody help me? I can't see anything in the chat room. Is it me? Is it my side? I cannot see a thing in the chat room, right? So can people just type into the chat room? Let me be certain. because it's saying, I mean, so thank you very much, Eric. I can see, good. All right. So maybe it's just me. I don't know what is wrong, but all right. So please, can you share your, Alikam, everybody, or are there, please just share your thoughts. What is the enterprise architecture? Please, everybody, just give me your you don't have to give me any chat GPT or Wikipedia. I'm just saying, just tell me broadly speaking. All right. What do you think enterprise architecture is about? What do you think is about? Good. I like Eric. Thank you very much for that. It says information systems interconnectivity. Okay. I mean, there are no, at this point, there are really no right or wrong answers at this point, right? Maybe when we get into the enterprise architecture with TOGAF, because TOGAF is also not the only enterprise architecture tool or methodology. That's not the only one. So maybe when we get specifically into TOGAF, right? Maybe we can now start to say that what is enterprise architecture according to TOGAF, right? According specifically to TOGAF. But yeah, um, Eric's Eric here also says the other Eric now says it's like ITIL, right? Okay, maybe. I mean, yes, I agree to an extent. It's like COVID. I agree to an extent. Yeah. Who else? Can I hear from some other people? All right, quickly. Tell me. God lives. Tell me, what do you think enterprise architecture is? From where you sit, from where you stand, from your own perspective, what do you think? Mr. Itoje, wow. Uh, it's nice to hear from you or to see you, right? So everybody, tell me very quickly in the chat room, right? Yes, Mr. Fatal, thank you very much, Abdul. It says, good. I like that. I think you brought in a different perspective, that there's got to be a strategic business side to this whole enterprise architecture thing. All right. So I like that. Thank you. All right. Can I hear from others very quickly? All right. Can I hear from others very quickly before I then go ahead? All right. Business and IT, is that what that means, Usman? BITS? Is that what it means? Is that what it means? Okay. Any other person as we move on? I want to hear thoughts, as I said. All right. I want to hear thoughts from everybody. All right. Quickly. Can I hear from some others very quickly as I move on? All right. Okay. And maybe security. That's just one portion. Okay. I agree. Okay. What else? Any other person? Any other person? It's got to, I mean, business is there. Enterprise architecture has got to start from the business. Enterprise architecture has got to start from the business in itself, right? It's got to start from the business, okay? It's got to start from the business in itself, okay? All right, so good. So what do we also, I mean, so once again, enterprise architecture, people talk about, what's that thing called now? When it comes to enterprise architecture, people speak a lot about uh, 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 people speak a lot about diagrams. So, what is the place of diagramming? Anybody? What is the place of using Visio and any other kind of diagramming type platform? Is there a place for that? What are those things about? Right? What is the place of diagramming when it comes to enterprise architecture? Is enterprise architecture about drawing diagrams? Because I see that a lot. Like, and the diagrams are useful. There's got to be some kind of initial representation when it comes to enterprise architecture. Representational analysis is key, because you will need to be able to represent things to be able to bring a lot of people to on the same page, so that people will understand what you're talking about or what you're referring to So that we can't take away diagramming. I'm not trying to underplay or downplay the concept of diagramming. I mean, diagramming is important. Diagramming is essential. So you have to have representational formats, but that's not what, and that's not all that enterprise architecture is about. I think that's the point I'm trying to make, right? That is not all that enterprise architecture is about. There's a diagramming side to it, but that's not all that it is about. So don't get overly caught up with just diagrams, right? It's important that you that you put things in diagrams, but that's not all there is to it, right? So I would try to quickly go through a couple of things. As I said, where I've got a couple of clients that insisted that I must do this ahead of the class that we have on the 4th. I've got a couple of clients that said we should do this, and that's why we're doing it. If we maybe a good place to start is that are enterprise architects, are they needed around the world, right? Enterprise architects, right? So if you if you go if you go to a place like JobServe, one of those websites that Nigerians are trying to all run to some of those places. If you put something like Indeed Canada or jobserve.co.uk or something like that. Enterprise architects, are they needed in this world? Is somebody looking for an enterprise architect? Enterprise architects, are they needed in Nigeria? People, are they looking for enterprise architects in Ghana? For example, is there a need for this kind of skill set in the marketplace? Right? Is there a need for this kind of skill set in the marketplace? Right? And what is the requirement? What is the requirement for enterprise architecture? All right. So look at this, right? Okay. I like this one. Okay, this one says security. This one says business architects, right? So, and some people just like, I even have people who just like to append architect to their name or to their role. I have a friend that told me that he said, "Oh, just put architect somewhere there. Doesn't mean that you are a practicing architect, but at least, people do all sorts of things. It's always very interesting how people think about this thing. But the enterprise architects are needed. They are needed globally. Somebody every day is always looking to hire an architect. Somebody somewhere every day is always looking to hire an architect. Somebody somewhere. So it could be, it's all sorts, right? Somebody somewhere is always looking to hire an architect of some sort. And when I mean architect in this instance, I don't mean like building architect or structural architect or something along those lines. I'm talking about information systems or business architect. This one is not showing me what they need. So yeah, my point is somebody everywhere is looking for an architect. So so you can see now, right? Business architect. That means there's some architects that are not, they're not business architects, but they're architects. So enterprise architects, right? Yeah, look at it. Enterprise architects. So in Nigeria, in the banks, in telecommunications, in fintechs, are they looking to hire architects? I think so. I think there's definitely a lack of architects in the entire environment. I think architects have a job. I think they have a place, and you can't be a banker that will not have or that should not have uh, a trained, skilled, and competent architect. I don't see the bank, right. You shouldn't be an enterprise organization that will not have a skilled, trained architect. I'm not talking about because the person has passed an exam. I don't know this thing about Africa or India and exams. We think that passing an exam is equal to skills and capabilities. I don't know where people get that from. I know so many people that have passed exams, but they don't have those skills and capabilities. I'm an employer of labor myself. And I think it's good to pass exams. I mean, I have to pass exams every year for one thing or the other, one accreditation or the other. But I'm just saying that the only criteria that we're looking at is not just because people have passed one exam or the other. I'm talking about practicing. I'm talking about delivering value, like really delivering value to an organization. So I'm going to try to do this very quickly because I know that a lot of people, this is your lunch time and things like that. So I will just speak over like the next 45 minutes. And please feel free to please give me your thoughts and your opinion in the chat room. I'll definitely love to read from all of you. As I said, I mentioned that said there's many experts on this call. There are people on this call that know more than I do. So clearly, I mean, some of you're like you're senior. So I will only share my thoughts. I will only share my thoughts generally. Right. So, but as I mentioned, I think enterprise architecture is a big deal. There's a slide I usually will show to clients. I think this is it, right? So yeah. I think enterprise architecture is the glue, right? So I think in one version of this thing, I'll probably have it written somewhere. I can update this, right? It's like the glue, or the middleman. Uh, yeah, between the business and IT. And that is why you all know that in some organization, um, especially in advanced in the West, right? Especially in the West, enterprise architecture has been moved to strategy department. And even the CBN in Nigeria is practicing it that way, whereby enterprise architecture is no longer in IT. EA is a unit in in the strategy department. I mean, and that's the ultimate way to practice it. Ultimately, because it's beyond IT, it's definitely beyond the IT. So, but it's not bad to start from IT. So, or some people will say, or transformation office, right? So, in some organizations, that's how they practice it. Some banks, one or two banks in Nigeria has also moved to this kind of thing, where enterprise architecture is now being practiced. They've moved it from IT, not in IT, no longer in the IT department. Why would anybody do that? Please give me some answers in the chat room. There's some people here that you're big experts, so please borrow some of your knowledge, expertise, and skills in the chat room. Is there real value to doing this? Where you've moved enterprise architecture from IT, you've moved it to strategy, you've moved it to transformation office. You've taken it out of IT. Why? Why will anybody be doing that? All right. So once again, the conversation around, let me put something here. EA versus IT architecture. I was having a session with some people yesterday, and I was saying the difference between information security, right, versus IT security. Okay. Information security versus IT security. Okay. Information security versus IT security. So here, the conversation is enterprise architecture versus IT architecture. And IT architecture will always remain in the IT department. Should stay. Um, Um, and it should stay in the IT department. IT architecture should be in the IT department, and it should stay there. But enterprise architecture has got to go outside of the IT department, right? Looking specifically at the business. And sometimes people say these are just concepts or terminologies, but it's more than that. It's more than that. It's more than that. So IT architecture versus enterprise architecture, because the real focus of enterprise architecture is from the business. Everything is top down. It's like in the ISO standards, when 4.1 talks about what? The context of the organization. And in there, you talk about the objectives of the organization and how whatever management system that you're trying to adopt aligns to the objective of the organization. You start from the objective of the organization and how whatever it is that you're doing aligns to that. Right? So it's really about the business objective. It starts from the business. And that's why some people have done that. Like, this is a strategy thing. It's not just about IT. So once again, feel free to reject what I'm saying, to say, no, you don't agree. It doesn't really matter. Right? But I think that's very important, that enterprise architecture starts from the business and then trickles down into IT. I think organizations need to have their enterprise architecture, one leg in the business and the other leg in IT. Those are the two legs. Those are the two legs. So, all right. So, these are conceptual conversations, but there is meaning to them. Well, why? According to TOGAF, right? These are some of the things. And I want to finish early because this is like a 5-day training. I'm going to try to crash a 24-hour session or 20-hour session into 1 hour, something like that. So, okay. Uh, so look at, they said of the execution of change towards the desired business vision and outcome. The business. Once again, that keyword, the business. There's a business. Before I got on this call, I was on a call with some people and we're talking about, I was on a call with some people and we're talking about business continuity. And I said there's a reason why they call it business continuity, not IT continuity or not facility continuity. There's a reason. This definition is directly from TOGAF, not my definition. So, and I've seen a lot of organizations. I've done, as I said, I'm blessed. I've done this for at least a dozen years. So, okay. So, but it's about the business. And why? Why? Why are these, which of these problems are you suffering from as an organization? Which of these problems are you suffering from as an organization? So there are many issues everywhere. This is important for people. So once again, enterprise architecture has many sides to it. So everybody, gonna check this up online. There's something called BizBook, the business architecture body of knowledge, and this is what it kind of broadly represents. So once again, it's really about the business. And what they were trying to do here is to try and say, see, there's business architecture, there's IT architecture, and enterprise architecture is the combination of both business architecture and IT architecture. Yeah, but that there's a business side to it, a core business side to it. So enterprise architecture, everybody should take that away, is a combination of business architecture and IT architecture. Once again, this is not just about verbal conversations, right? It's about real doing. It's about doing something specifically. It's about trying to understand the business. So, I mean, if it's diagrams, I'm sure I have like 1 million of them. If it's diagram, all right, I'm sure I have. I'll take some of the questions. Just give me a minute so that at least I don't lose my trend of thoughts. I wrote so. I mean, if it's diagrams, as I said, I have like 1 million of them. Everybody, there's also something that I found useful. Go and look at this. There's something. Go online, you'll find this. I'll take your questions in a minute. Just give me a minute. I'll look at the chat room, but my screen is on full screen, so I'll come back to those things. Okay. Everybody go. I mean, this is useful for people who want plenty diagrams, like reference diagram. Go and check it out. Not sure it will directly add value or add value, but at least you can sleep at night knowing that you have some complex diagrams on your computer. So go and download this. It's available online, everybody. It's not a secret. It's a free download. So remember I was looking at it, I was like, oh my, what is this? This is it. And this will be useful, I mean, to some. So go look at it. But these are generic things, right? Maybe it helps your thinking. Maybe it helps your mind. Go and look at this, everybody. Not bad. Not bad. It starts with business operation support services, where it talks about your back office type things, compliance, risk, HR, data governance, security. You can look at it, legal. And then it talks about, hopefully, our IT helps to deliver value to those entities. Then it then calls some things technology solution services. And here, probably thinking more on the DevOps development core side of things. And of course, so it's almost like this technology solution services, like the DevOps side of things. And then it brings security and risk to the end. Not bad at all. Does this immediately add value? I'm not sure. At least it allows you to think. It gives you a structured pattern for your thinking. Especially if you're new to this line of work. If you're new to it. Right? Because, I mean, this is generic. You are now going to have to put an interpretation to this entire thing for your own organization. So if you're looking for value, hopefully this will add some value to your organization. So everybody, you can go away with this. Go download it. It's available. This is it. It's available. Reference diagram for enterprise architecture. So useful, valuable, I don't know. You will have to make that decision. I'll put, I mean, this is the slide for our training in itself that contains almost 400 slides or something like that, which we cover over 5 days. So I'll just itemize a couple of things. So I think I was doing some work for an organization and we were saying, that, okay, let's look at the applications that you have and let's just do, I won't even call it rationalization here. Well, I wasn't really doing rationalization. I was just even trying to identify, let's just call it gap assessment. Maybe that's an easy way out, right? And what do you have and what don't you have? And what is the combination of applications that you have as an organization that allows you to do one thing or the other? And this piece of work probably even took like an entire month. Just going through this, the thinking around it, plans around it, the thoughts around it. So we then arrived at what they have, what they don't have, what their gaps, and hopefully the gaps will now come down to specific action items and implementation plans and the decision around, do we use SharePoint? Do we go to use Process Maker? Do we use Power BI? Do we use Tableau? Do we use a CRM? Do we use an ERP? Those kinds of conversations. Do we use Bittrex? Do we use Asana? Do we use Jira? I mean, some organizations, we go there and they have everything. They're like, why would you have these three applications? Like, one of them can pretty much give you 50% of the others. Maybe not all, but. And I mean, most applications, nobody ever uses more than 30 or 40, maximum 50% of the capabilities or the features in the application, right? I mean, go and look at what people use Jira for. They only use a tiny portion of Jira. Now go and look at what people do with their project management software or with their service management application. They only use a tiny portion of it. I mean, let's all look at what we do with Microsoft 365, right? So, what's our utilization for Microsoft 365? So, this was some work I was doing for somebody. And I put this here, and I know why I put this here, because I mean, as I said, I have trained, coached, mentored, whatever that word is, many people over the years. Because I've been running these classes for 7 or 8 years or something like that. And I found that, why most people will never become great business, they'll never become good enterprise architects. Let's not even talk about great. Let's just talk about good ones. The reason why most people, just like the reason why most people will never be great project managers, is because something fundamentally is missing, and it's their business analysis skill set. So people have moved from never being great business analysts, and they jumped to what's that place called? They jumped to project management. It's like they've not spent 4 or 5 years doing business analysis work. They've just they've jumped, they've done that thing they call leapfrog, right? From business, they never became great business analysts, and then they want to become great enterprise architect, great risk managers, great project managers. But the background and the foundation and the fundamentals is tied to business analysis. And these 50 techniques, they are all compulsory things for you to know and for you to have skills with, to understand the software to use and to do work. And that's why you see people who work in professional services, what KPMG, EY, Deloitte, PwC, those types of organizations. They will never give you a project to manage until you've spent about 5 years. Now, during those 5 years, the nature of your work in the organization is allowing you to practice these techniques. Well, in Africa, we think when we say business analysis, the people say, I've taken the training or I've passed the exam. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm saying that do you have the skills? Is probably a better way to do it. The actual skills, not whether you passed the exam, not whether you took the training. The line of work, does it allow you to demonstrate these skills, the doing side of things? That's why when you see that, people have a lot of qualifications, but when they travel outside of the country, those qualifications, because they never went deep, they're like at a high level. So when they go and you tell them to go and interview somebody, they wait, look, you listen to their interview approach, just like the auditors and those kinds of people around me. You listen to their interview approach and you're like, this is a poor way to interview people. You can tell. You can tell. And I can tell you categorically, this is what is missing. And these 50 techniques, I typed them out of Babok, right? Took Babok and brought them here on this simple page using architecture. So I have another slide where I have identified the ones that you can demonstrate using tools like Trello, Jira, the ones that you need a tool like Tableau, the ones that you can use Excel to demonstrate, the ones that are almost purely theoretical, so to speak. viewing some strategy documents right now, and even something as straightforward as SWOT analysis. And because this organization, they're doing it internally and they're doing it at the departmental level, the department are struggling with their own SWOT, number 46. Like, what is the strength of our department? Because the people are just struggling, right? Like, what's our strength as a department? What makes us weak as a department? Because, of course, for the entire organization, they outsource it to consulting somewhere. So that's easy and straightforward. But in this instance, it's it's not a consultant doing it for the entire organization. They're doing it for themselves as departments in the organization, and they are struggling. They're struggling. Okay, so if you want to be a great enterprise architect, go back to the basics. Because even in enterprise architecture, it is these same things that are practiced from a skill and competence perspective. It is these same things. And you can take it from me. I mean, this is my job, right? Okay, this is nice. This is nice, right? How is this going to be implemented in an organization? Now that's a separate ball game. But the conceptual thinking, this is nice. The business, goals, strategy, break it down into departments. And these are the things you learn under core strategy. And I'm not saying strategy class in an MBA program. That's not what I'm discussing here. I'm saying that you really, I mean, in our own organization, we're writing our strategy for 2025. So this can't be theory for me. Otherwise, we already even fell short of our objectives, our financial or whatever objectives for this year. So we're not going to write a strategy because we just need to submit something. We're going to have to live by our strategy. We'll only thrive based on our strategy. So this can't be theoretical. It can't be like just. It's got to really be real work for us as an organization. And I suppose for a lot of organizations, right? This is not it's not even consulting, right? Sometimes when we consult for organizations, I can tell you things broadly speaking, but internally, what's that thing they say? They say to thy own self, you should be true, right? Like, so we have to really look at it. That do we really have capabilities to meet our goals? And then what are the processes we put together? It can be a process like facility management. It can even be a process like physical security. It can be a process like the way we recruit or the way we onboard. It can be a process like our receivables. Because, I mean, we talk about this in ISO 9001 all the time. The processes are a subset of organizations are made up of departments. Departments are made up of units. Units are made up of processes. So at the end of the day, an organization is really tied to its processes. And because everything is a process. I mean, we say that all the time. Strategy is a process. Risk is a process. Everything is a process. Even the process for leadership, the process for succession planning, whatever that thing, it's a process. Before you then start to think about how do you automate that process? I mean, we talk about garbage in, garbage out, poor processes. You think you can automate a poor process and generate great results. I don't know where people get that from. Garbage in, garbage out, poor process. You're only automating something that is gone in the wrong direction. That's why most ERPs, most core banking, core insurance, core this, core that. That's why they don't deliver any value, because there was no real clarity from the strategy to the department or capability to the processes. And then you dovetail that into applications and then middleware, databases, infrastructure, like that, like that, like that. Okay. So hopefully my point is clear. I mean, I can't really talk about TOGAF today because I mean that's a specific methodology, and it's not the only one. So for people who are real life enterprise architects who have a job called enterprise architecture, they're the ones that worry about things like this, especially when they're going to get an external person come to review them against their use and adoption of enterprise architecture using TOGAF specifically. It's got 60 something artifacts that you need to 66, something like that, that you must meet. There are templates, there are guidelines, and things like that. But I don't really think you can use Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint to do enterprise architecture. I think if you're going to do enterprise architecture, you're going to need a full-blown tool. I think so. Actually, I know so. I take that back. If you're going to do real enterprise architecture, you're going to need a platform. Just like saying you're doing, just like saying you're doing service management and you don't have a service management tool, you don't have Ivanti, you don't have Manage Engine, you don't have Fresh Desk or Fresh Service, to be precise. How are you going to do it? It's like saying your organization practices Agile, but you don't have Jira, you don't have any of those platforms, Asana, as I said, and many of the tools, ClickUp, right? That helps you to drive that. Like you want to practice Agile in your organization using Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. I don't know how you're going to do that. It's like saying you want to do GRC optimally. Let's even talk about IT GRC. Let's not even talk about GRC like, business GRC. Let's reduce it to IT GRC. And I don't know how you're going to really optimize your GRC without a tool. I don't know how you're going to get enterprise risk management done at the level or even privacy, and you don't have those platforms. Same thing with enterprise architecture. At certain level of maturity, you're going to need some tool, some platform. And if you go online, you'll see all sorts. You'll see all sorts. Right. As I said, if you want to keep drawing diagrams, you can draw diagrams from now till the end of the year. But the diagrams get obsolete in no time because everything is changing. So diagramming is not enterprise architecture. I know you've hired a big firm. I know they've given you a 500-page document or whatever, PowerPoint, nicely done, neatly done. And every time we go to audit, the people say, we show them, they say, no, what's that thing that they say to us? You say, tell me how you practice enterprise, and they show us documents. I'm like, yeah, these are static documents. Some of them, there's a client that showed me the one that was done 6 years. They've even changed their name. Like the bank in itself has changed their name. They've merged with another bank or they've been taken over by somebody else. Right? They've been taken over. I'm telling one of my enterprise architecture bosses. I'm telling him we were on the call that he should come online. Right? He's got a lot of experience when it comes to these things. Right? He's asking me that when is the program. Anyways. Anyway, so let me quickly show you a couple of things and I'll take some questions. I mean, as I said, this whole thing is for it's for a full week of training. So I can't even exhaust the things. But let me quickly show you something. Let me show you what I like to call the endpoint of enterprise architecture. Like, hold on. Good. Let's do this. Okay, hold on. Good. Let's start from here. Enterprise architecture is when you have enterprise architecture is when your organization can provide answers to these questions. Enterprise architecture is when your organization can provide answers. Sorry, I take that back. Sorry. Oh, no. Enterprise architecture is when your organization can provide answers to these questions real time. I think this is it. So if you tell me what thing you should get out of here, enterprise architecture is when your organization can provide answers to these questions. Real time. Like you have real time answers to this. So if you are just asking me for what is it, this is it. For the people that are here, how long will it take for you to provide an answer to this? And can it ever become real time? This is the height of enterprise architecture. Enterprise architecture requires a lot of time, requires a lot of effort, requires a lot of dedication, requires a lot of data gathering. But except you can provide these kinds of answers, then you haven't really started doing enterprise architecture, ideally. I mean, look at the third question. How much do our applications cost per category? I can go on. How long will it take to provide an answer to these things? And can it ever become real-time information in your own organization? Is it possible that in this lifetime, that this will become for real? That you have clear answers to these things in real time? Okay. I can go away from here and come to, let me see. How do you get this in real time in your organization? You can't even do a lot of these things. Most organizations are struggling with a complete. If I ask people here, it would look as if I want to embarrass you. If I ask how many organizations have a complete, accurate, current CMDB, a CMDB that is connected to the source. A CMDB that is connected to the right source. I mean, it means that the CMDB is connected to applications, to servers, to your virtual machines, to SolarWinds, to whatever that place where the actual asset discovery is done. How many people? Very few. Very few organizations. Very few organizations. Okay, so people are still asking me for the link. I've almost finished the session. So a CMDB is the basis, right? A CMDB. Maybe we'll share the link, right? The recording, I want to say, because a lot of people are still asking me, and I want to finish this because I didn't plan to spend the whole day here. So, and as I said, we can do this the entire day and we still won't be done. So, and maybe Benga, you can look at the registration again, and for the new registrations, you can send them the link again, right? So, because people are just a lot of people are asking me for the registration. Okay, so if I come here, So because this is what enterprise architecture is meant to be trying to do. This is what it's meant to be trying to do. To provide answers. All right. And I mean, and that's just some portions of here. The work is plenty, so but that's just some portions. So I mean, look at something like this, right? Look at something like this. Diagrams don't Visualization and diagrams don't provide real-time answers. It doesn't matter if you had the combination of 10 big consulting firms together and they give you diagrams. Those diagrams get obsolete. They're not real-time. And I can tell you technically, you have to start from a current, complete, and correct CMDB. Underlying a successful enterprise architecture is ISO 20000. That is optimal. Okay. ISO 20000 that is optimal underlines all these things. I'll show you 2 or 3 more things and we will go home. I'll bring this to a close. All right. I'll show you a couple of other things and then we can go home. We can go back. All right. Sorry. Uh, okay, good. I think it was during COVID that I drew this up. I know specifically it was during COVID. And once again, it was for a client of ours. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's do this right. But it starts from the business. Simple and straightforward. Please share your thoughts with me once again in the chat room. I might be wrong, so but hey, nobody's the god of enterprise architecture here. We're all learning and trying to get better. I mean, some people write for AWS and Microsoft. Maybe you should go and look at something called the Well Architected series from Microsoft. Everybody, Microsoft Well Architected. I mean, that is some serious work that have been done on the Well Architected framework for cloud. As under 5 pillars, like has some really good work. So maybe you should go have a look at it. I mean, AWS has got his own, and both of them decided that they're going to use that well architected name. Weird, huh? I think it was AWS that first used it. I think it was AWS that first used well architected. I think so. Before Microsoft also jumped on it. I shared this with somebody during COVID, right? Or with the people. I even used it on the webinar I was having during that COVID on this. I said everything starts from the business, then we come down to the processes before we come down to the applications. So if your focus is from number 3 or rule 3 down, then you're really IT architecture. What makes the difference that we call it enterprise is that you start from number 1. That's what makes the difference. Okay. And towards the extreme right, you will see all the other supporting things that need to be there. There are many other supporting things. Many other supporting things that should be there. Okay. Of course, the stack that is number 3 and below have to align and support number 1 and number 2. The stack that is number 3 and below have to support 1 and 2. Okay. All right. Okay, good. No, let me use this one. Hold on. Hold on. Wait a minute. Okay, let me use this one. But in TOGAF 10, the arrows have disappeared, trying to tell you that they're not necessarily sequential. So, for example, requirements must be done all the time. And you might just move to an area. It is just a conceptual model, right? So everywhere around the world, the most important thing is that you know ADM. And this is probably where I'll bring this to a close. I'm mindful of your time because a lot of you're on break. And I still want us to have some discussions. I've got some questions. Well, one of my questions, maybe somebody should help me type this into the chat room. One of my questions to you. Normally people ask me questions. I also have questions for you. What is the big deal that is making, what is the big issue why organizations are doing very poorly with regards to enterprise architecture? That's question number one. Why are organizations doing very poorly with regards to enterprise architecture? Another question for me is, how do we get better? So that definitely is another question, right? How do we get better when it comes to enterprise architecture? And for all the experts that are in the room, I know a lot of you, for EGM is here, many people. I mean, you guys are plenty big people on the call. So please share your thoughts with us. Do not keep your knowledge to yourself. A lot of experts are in the room. Please do some of us that are entry level people into this line of work, do us a favor by sharing your thoughts in the chat room. A lot of my friends from Ghana are here from different organizations. Please help us. We beg of you. Help us. Help some of us young people to get value. Why organizations struggling generally? And what needs to be done for everybody to get better? Okay. What do you think? Is it a technology challenge? Is it a people challenge? What is the challenge, right? I've seen there's a bank. All the people flew from abroad. They've had consultants from everywhere around the world. The people they stayed in very expensive hotels. They were with them for like 6 months, drawing all sorts of nice diagrams. They did workshops, they did presentations, they did all sorts of things. But I can tell you that in that organization, the enterprise architecture capability is still behind. Why? How? Why? So why is this a challenge everywhere? And what do we need to do to be able to address it? Okay. I named it Pabitomia. That's my naming convention. That says, so it says, this is ADM, Architecture Development Method. And once again, it supports what we've said. It says you need to do some preliminary work. You need to have a vision for enterprise architecture. You need to do the business side. You need to do the applications and database side. You need to do the infrastructure side, which is like D, which is the technology side in a sense. You need to then think about what solutions are the most appropriate that will help you meet the business objectives. Could be IBM, Microsoft, whatever that thing is. And then you have to have a plan to move from your existing way of doing things to that new platform. And then the new platform needs to be implemented. Okay. And the platform must not, the implementation of that platform should not deviate from the agreed architecture. And you need to manage change. And then over and over again. Okay. So please, before I start to check in the chat room, why is this an issue everywhere? Why is everybody having an issue with enterprise architecture? And what do we need to do to improve the value that enterprise architecture adds to organization? In Nigeria, in Ghana, only IT people talk about enterprise architecture in a lot of places. A few organizations here and there, but they talk about from the business. But most people, it's just an IT conversation. Is that the problem? Is it because IT architecture is a thing, isn't it? It is a thing. So, anyways, once again, if I don't stop now, I will be tempted to continue. But let me show you one more thing. I promise this is the last one. Aha, there you go. Everybody. Maybe internal, because somebody also needs to come to independently and objectively look at how you're practicing enterprise architecture. You need an independent person. And maybe the IT auditors in the organization, not just the auditors generally. Maybe they also are part of the problem. They don't go to audit architecture side of things. They don't do it. So this talks about the way you have conceptualized or designed a system versus how you implemented that system. What about if you don't even have the design documents? Then there's nothing to worry about, right? How you've implemented it is your design, right? Because this is a problem in a lot of places. The way you've conceptualized and designed the solution and versus how it's been built. So sometimes the design and the specification is completely off from the implementation. Sometimes there are lines of alignment. Number two, sometimes the implementation is a subset of the architecture. That means the architecture is much broader, thinks further than the implementation. And sometimes it's the other way around, number four. And the architecture is short-sighted and the implementation has gone broader than that. There's the ideal situation where I don't even know whether it's ideal because you can argue for or against, where the architecture um, conforms to the implementation. Because architecture is not implementation. And that's the problem with all the plenty diagramming, right? Diagrams is not the same thing as how did we end up implementing this? And that's where that change management comes in because we can go back to do it. And then there's also non-conformant. One of the questions I like to ask people is that which situation will you rather be in your own organization, number 3 or number 4? Somebody will say, I want number 5. I said, I didn't give you that option. Where will you rather be as an organization, number 3 or number 4? You rather be compliant or will you be conformant? Where will you rather be as an organization? Right? Where will you rather be? Okay. So maybe people should share their thoughts with me in the chat room. And have you ever done this? Have you ever called an auditor, called an independent reviewer to come to say, give us your thoughts and your opinion with regards to where we are enterprise architecture wise? Ever done that? Right? Is that a concern? How do we do that? Okay. Okay. I already promised I'll stop, so I'm stopping. Okay, good. Let me go to the chat room. I already said I'll stop, so I am stopping. Right. Good, 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 good. Okay, so I have to back off because a lot of people have plenty things to say here. Oh, right. Please share more thoughts with me, all right, so that people can learn. Okay. Yes, exactly. Oh, I also did something on digital transformation using Open Group. Maybe I don't know if we have the link. I did something on digital transformation. Yeah. For technology requirements is a business, why didn't you? Okay, for me, I agree. Isaac says what? Yeah, I mean, uh, okay, CMDB, configuration management database, that is like a subset of your the detailed view or the detailed version of your asset inventory. Right? So uh yeah, configuration management system, something like that. All right. Who needs to initiate EA? Eric, I don't know. IT does not think like that. I don't think IT people are involved. I mean, I'm sorry, business people is what I wanted to say. How many business people are here? Like, how many people are here? Executives don't even know that there's something called enterprise architecture. So most CIOs, if your CIO is above, let me be careful here. I want to say something I'm tempted to say something very controversial. So let me put some caveats around it. So let me say typically, if your CIO is above 55, he probably doesn't really understand enterprise architecture. Like he doesn't really understand it. Like he knows about it. And he himself probably doesn't think it adds any value. Because you must have gone to a place where something is working for you to be able to do it. You must have seen a bridge before for you to be able to design it. You must have seen train stations work, right? Before you can design one for Lagos, an overcrowded location. So you really have to have an insight into where enterprise architectures worked before you can really say this is how it should work. And I'm luck I'm blessed. I have seen it work in some places. Even between Nigeria and Ghana, I've seen it work in some places, at least to some extent. Okay, right? Yeah, but so thank you very much, Ephraim. The point is that I mean, they can't give what they don't have. If your executives don't understand these things, how are they going to give you the support? How can they be committed to something that they don't know? They don't even know the value. And the thing is coming from IT anyways. And so the people look at it that IT and one more thing, IT and one more this. I agree, Io, with some of these things. So champions definitely. I think there's a lot of misconception around what enterprise architecture is, and I mean, maybe all of us, maybe I'm also one of the people, of course, because I think all of us just talk about it as baseline assessment, target, and then that's it. So Stella, yes, I mean, it could be. Eric, yes, so absolutely, the context of the organization is a big deal. Thank you very much for Jimmy. Definitely, I agree that there's a cultural side to this. I completely agree. Right, so I completely agree. But these are all big conversations that I'm not even sure on this call in this meeting that we can completely deal with all these things. But yeah, Jimmy, I agree with you. Um, yeah, so value to the business. I mean, imagine, I mean, I've seen an organization where year one, they, there was a budget item. It's called document management using SharePoint. Year two, it was called records management using SharePoint. Year three, it was called content management using SharePoint. So the client has pretty much spent money year one, year two, year three. There's no real value to the organization. A lot of organizations, a lot of CIOs. I mean, I've got so many CIOs as my friends, right? When you talk about things like this, they just think it's a joke, right? What is all this, right? It's just gist. Because for them, they see it as documentation exercise. The enterprise architecture is a documentation exercise. Like it's about documentation. Now, if you write great documents, then you're doing enterprise architecture. You draw great diagrams. So, um, yeah, I mean, enterprise architecture is complex. George, I agree. Sophia, I also agree with you. There's definitely a communication breakdown. I mean, I mean, and that's why I said ISO 20,000 and ITIL adoption. You know, it's weird. As I said, I'm also part of the problem, so I also take some blame for this. There's a I've trained ITIL in between Mr. Ayamusho and I. We trained ITIL everywhere, isn't it? And we train clients on ITIL, and the clients never implement ITIL. They never adopt it. But they're trained. Like, we're still training people on ISO 20000. But because that one has to be audited. So people kind of take it a bit more seriously than ITIL. Because in Africa, ITIL is just something you do for the entire IT department. Just do it and then everybody goes home, and that's it. Just do it and then they go home. It's nothing is really a big deal in there. They're not really thinking to say that, what, do we really have a service catalog? Is it complete? Is it right? Is it, and that's why I say it. Why are you talking about enterprise architecture when you're struggling with ITIL and ISO 20000? Because I can tell you for a fact, even inside of maybe I should look for ISO 20000 slide on my computer. I might find something. I'm sure I'll find. Right? There is even a design side to it on the IT side. There's a design side to the whole thing. And that design is a subset. That design is a subset of enterprise architecture. And as I told you, practically, you can never get enterprise architecture right. And for me, so you're saying better to do 100% of 20. Some people will definitely disagree. Mr. Gumbiadi, now by a big man CIO, right? So who should have better insight? The architect or the implementation person? I think we'll go back and forth on that issue. I'm not sure we'll easily agree to something. Well, right. But as I was saying, right, ISO 20000, right? And I'm not talking about just being certified, all this certification and exam and all these things, they're very confusing, right? I have Kayode Adeoye here. Kayode, is it the same you? Kayode probably knows more enterprise architecture. He's my girl than I do.
Good morning, Orlando.
you're you're the,
It's
you're
aw-
the you're the big man.
it's awesome to hear. Good morning.
I'll,
I'll just be
I,
listening in, but yeah, yeah, absolutely right. So a lot of things you've mentioned. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
okay.
The truth about it is, I think the first fundamental problem is in all of the frameworks and disciplines, there are overlaps. And within those overlaps, there are fundamental building blocks that each framework relies upon. So you truly cannot evolve into a good EA practice if your service management is bad because you are blind to what you have within IT. You don't understand your service catalogs. You don't understand your IT assets. You don't understand the configurations you have on each asset, and all of that build up to just one place. You lack an understanding of the capabilities that you have as an organization. You don't even understand the periods where you have, two or three applications providing the same capabilities. You don't. You're not able to
I
do
mean,
application
uh,
rationalization, and that creates a very big problem.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, thank you very much. As I said, I mean, thank you, Kayode. I mean, so if you look at this, right? Thank you, Kayode. As I said, I mean, I've got all sorts of experts here, so they're my teachers. All right. Um, if you look at this, right, this one, thank you. Uh, and that one I was doing this for a client, right? So if you're struggling here, I mean, me, I'm blessed, have a thorough IT background, right? So or something like that. So once again, if you look at, if you're struggling with that 8.5.2 and you're struggling with some of the things that are here, why are you talking about? And it could be any SM tool, right? It can be anyone, it can be any SM tool. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so you're struggling with your service catalog, you're struggling with assets. So can you see these three, right? I mean, I like to look at them as cousins or something like that. Maybe I should do something like this. If you're struggling with some of these things, why are you talking about enterprise architecture? And remember, here, remember that some key things here, am I right? If you're struggling with regards to some of these areas that I'm, why? The fundamentals are broken. The fundamentals are broken. And as I said, I know in Africa, we're only just interested in certificate and all those kinds of things, right? So certification, hey, we're certified, hey, hooray. Right, so anyways, right. I think I can bring this to a close. All right. Yeah. ERP will just be at the application level. So is an ERP must also be tied to what you're trying to achieve in the business. So what exactly will an accounting software do for you? What will the HR application do for you? What will the CRM do for you? What will all these things, what will they do for you? All right. Okay. Pretty much. I don't know if anybody's got any other thoughts. I mean, I could be here all day talking about this. Exercises to be done. How do you assess your own organization? How do you determine your next steps as an organization? What are your next steps? How do you move forward from here? As I said, I mean, I can do this just reviewing things. Even inside of COBIT, right? There's enterprise architecture there. So most people will say we have done COBIT, we have implemented COBIT, but how? How have you done it? I mean, because COBIT has got enterprise architecture. And then it even has some metrics. It's got some metrics. COBIT in itself has got some metrics for enterprise architecture. I can show you some. They said, we don't really do these things. We talk about them, but because also that one of the problems also is that organizations don't have, they will not even agree that a guy would devote his time to this in the organization. They'll say the guy, because he's not in what are those departments again? He's not in applications, or he's not in infrastructure. They'll say those guys that don't do anything. It's a training slide, Eric. I can't. I'm sorry. I can share some extra for you, but it's a training slide for 5 days. So I can't. I mean, you can see me skipping through different parts of it, right? So COVID has got enterprise architecture. Well, and it specifies the activities in themselves. But I'll share an excerpt of something, so it's not a problem. Okay. It's got enterprise architecture in there. COVID has got this. It's got specific opportunity things there. But let's look at this. So it now says that what exactly are some of the metrics? So if you say enterprise architecture is working in my own organization, what are the measures to these metrics? What is your answer or your score relative to these things? What is your exact score relative to these things. Be good for me to stop before me will fire me. Me will say that I've already done the whole training. So and I'll still like to keep my job since I haven't found another job. Right. So all right. Good. Please, what exactly are your final thoughts, everybody? What are your final thoughts? Please, everybody on the call, please give us what is your takeaway? That's all we want to hear. We'll bring this to a close. And then we'll also share feedback form. Please give us some feedback. I beg of you. I've spent my time this afternoon talking to all of you. You can at least give me some feedback. So please, I beg of everybody, tell me those two things, everybody. Tell me two things, everybody. Please fill the feedback form and just tell me one thing. I say that again. Fill the feedback form. They'll share the link to the feedback, and then just tell me one thing. What exactly is your personal takeaway? Don't tell me about Nigeria or Africa or companies generally. I'm just saying, what is your personal takeaway? What is your personal takeaway, everybody? I've got Ephraim here. I mean, Ephraim is an international guru practicing enterprise architecture. I can put my money on it. All right, good. All right, so uh Dave is here, many others are here. So everybody, please come to the chat room. What's your personal takeaway? And also fill the feedback form very quickly. Angela, feedback form. All right, Binga, and then what's your takeaway? Thank you to I know we told everybody in Ghana very late, so but thank you all the people from Ghana. Uh Enoch, Samuel, George, Nana, everybody, Jeremy, everybody. Thank you for coming. God leaves everybody that we told very late. Please, can I go everybody to the chat room? Isaac, I need to hear from you. Everybody. All right, please just give me Mr. Oyo Ephraim, what's your personal takeaway? Thank you very much, Eric. Um, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Eric, for that. And I'll share a portion of the slides with you, definitely. I'll share some excerpts with you. It's not a problem at all. All right, thank you. Who else? Please, can I get some feedback as we bring this to a close? This is not a training session. I only wanted to speak to the people for an hour, but I believe a lot of people came in quite late, so it's fine. Others, please, quickly, Mr. Oil, Mr. Fejimi, what is your personal takeaway? What are the next steps for you as a person? Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim, tell me. Tell me. What exactly is your takeaway? What is your personal takeaway? What are what are your what are you taking, Andrew? What are you taking away from here, Mr. Usman Bakari, international enterprise architect? As I said, I've got some senior people here, some very senior people here. Jude, Muradio, Khalid, Mr. Owusu, Akutu. I mean, I've got Eric, Aoku now. Please, quickly, everybody, give me your feedback. And where is the feedback form? I can't see it in the chat room. Where is the feedback form? I cannot see it in the chat room. Please, can I hear from everybody? We need to bring this to a beautiful close, everybody. A beautiful close. A beautiful close. Can I hear from everybody? Usman, what is your advice? What do you advise that everybody does? How can we go? What are the next steps? What is the thing that you knew before, but as now we've shed more light on it? Can I hear from everybody? Please, we need to bring this to a close. We need to bring this to a close. Sophia, I can see your beautiful face. Please go into the chat room. Tell me, what is your big takeaway from here? What are you taking out of here? Mr. Kobinafin, what are you taking away from here? How are you going to go back and start to practice enterprise architecture better? Benga, Angela, Miwa, where is the feedback form, for crying out loud? Please. Okay. Can I hear from people, please? Can people go into the chat room? We need to go. Jeremy, thank you. Jeremy, thank you very much. Absolutely. Jeremy, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Can I hear from others? Ayo, please. Angela had been asking for this theme. Please fill the feedback form. Please fill the feedback form. Mr. Ayo, what exactly, how do we go away from here? Mr. Kayode, what are the next steps for all of us? Can you make some recommendations in the chat room, everyone? Everybody, please. Mr. Olijari, please make some recommendations. All right. Enoch, please make some recommendations. How do we go away from here? Jimmy, thank you very much for this. I agree. I mean, better to start small than nothing, right? So, there's also domain architecture. So there's information security architecture. There is service management architecture. You can go online. There is applications architecture. So there's also the concept of the domain architecture. So you're right. I mean, Jimmy, you might not be in a position to be able to drive enterprise architecture, but you might want to drive information security. So thank you for that, Jimmy, because that's a very useful point. That you might want to start wherever you are, right? Just start, right? Start with domain architecture. Maybe trying to chew enterprise might be a bit too big at the very beginning. So for all the CISOs that are here, Mr. Eric, maybe you want to start with information security or cybersecurity architecture. That might be a great place to start. Thank you for that. Okay. All right. Thank you, Eric. Enoch, absolutely. How you end up making voting budgets year in, year out, and those kinds of things to IT, and you don't really have enterprise architecture in place, I don't understand. So, okay. Yeah, so I don't understand. So for you to keep, so Enoch, absolutely, you need to keep throwing money inside of something. You need to know what you're getting out of it. And enterprise architecture helps to bring an answer to that. Okay. George, absolutely. We can't take that away from it. Engaging stakeholders across board. Okay. Yeah, or your firm. I mean that, but don't be deceived. The tool will not provide you with the answers. I've seen organizations that invested in the tool and got no value from it. So you can't automate nonsense. You're going to get nonsense out of it, for lack of a better way to put it. So if you automate something that doesn't make sense, it still won't make sense. It still will not make sense if you automate something that does not make sense. So, Kyle, thank you. I mean, absolutely. How you're doing your digital transformation journey without enterprise architecture being, a key portion. And I mean, and as I said, diagrams are good. I mean, people are going to keep drawing diagrams forever. However, you need to understand that diagrams in themselves is not equal to enterprise architecture. It will help with your understanding. It will help to bring clarity to a couple of things, but diagrams are not equal to enterprise architecture. Okay. Once again, please fill the feedback form. Sylvester, you're not saying anything. Usman, you're not saying anything. Sophia, you're not saying anything. Mrs. All right. Richard, Arthur, you're not saying anything. I want to hear from others as we bring Mr. Owusu answer. Okpe, please, share your knowledge with us now, please. All you experts that are on the call. All right, thank you, Kadi. Thank you for the things you have said. I mean, thank you for Ijimi. Thank you, George. Thank you, Mr. Ephraim. I mean, you that you're here, you're living out the you're living the what's that book? Living to tell the tale. You're all the deeply involved in one way or the other. Some of you, I like for Ijimi's advice. I really do. Starts from where you are, that concept, right? Just start from the portion of the elephant that you can hold on to. Start from there. Please, I beg of you, otherwise we'll fill the feedback form. Please can you put it again? Otherwise, our QMS people are going to give us problems. Our QMS team expects that in all our sessions, whether paid or not paid, that we have feedback from. So please, if you don't want us to fail our own internal 9001, I beg of you, please fill the feedback form. They can put it in again. And of course, I'm happy. I mean, a lot of you are my friends. A lot of you, you know me. I mean, so if you need help, come. I'm sure there's value that we can provide to you one way or the other. Okay. It's always, thank you very much, Usman. Thank you. It's definitely great talking to you. It's always great to have you here. Thank you, Mr. Fatal, our undeclared uh, uh, stakeholder. Right. So thank you. And Mr. Ayo, please once again fill the feedback form. Allow us pass our QMS. We have an annual QMS, and the QMS people are holding us by the jugular. Some of them are even on this call trying to do their QMS thing. So we too, we leave the QMS. We don't only do those things for others, we also leave these things. So it's important that we meet whatever requirement that is tied to it. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. Please fill the feedback form. God bless you. It's definitely great having you've taken out of your time to be here. I hope you've gotten some value out of this. We share a portion of the presentation. And for those that are interested, please come and we will be together on the 4th as we take the training class on that day. Thank you very much for your time. God bless you. Have a great remaining part of your week, of the month, and even of the year in itself. Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you. Have a great we'll also share the links for the recording, so it's not a secret. So indeed, Mr. Demola, Mr. Salami, tell me you've been here since, so not that I just come in. I hope so. I have come to the end of my
Doctor, honestly, I joined not quite long, but at least the little I was able to meet on ground was very okay. And the most that you are going to give us recordings.
The link.
Oh, I think yes, I can cover all with the other side. Yeah, thank you very much. Will. Yes, sir.
All right,
yes,
not a problem, sir.
Yeah.
All right. All right, thank you, sir. All right, everyone. Thank you. Have a remaining great day, a part of your day, as I said. Thank you for your time. God bless you. All right, then. Thank you. Cheers. Please fill the feedback form. I beg of you, please fill the feedback form. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Just let us to send you class link, the class information, how you can register with that information and access to the application. All right. Have